Hi, we're going to be looking at chapter 4 a little bit more. This is section 4.8. And yesterday we were looking at something called compositions, but today we want to do it with actual equations. So this is the next step in the process. We have 3 different equations for functions. We've got the f of x equals 3x squared, the g of x equals absolute value of x minus 4, and the h of x equals the square root of x plus 5. And how it starts us out is that we're going to try plug in 1 into each one of these to just see how different the results are. So if we put the negative 1 in for f of x, it's going to look like this. F of negative 1 equals 3, and then it's negative 1 squared. And I worked on this with a couple of people yesterday, and it became very apparent that it would be really nice for each person to have a chance to think about this versus a large class situation. So that's why we're doing it as an ed puzzle today. So this f of negative 1 is just this reminder that, hey, I plugged in negative 1. The reason we're putting it into x squared is because that's what f of x is. And so the final piece is, do I multiply 3 by negative 1 first, or do I square negative 1 first? Hopefully you said you square negative 1 first. And now I'm going to write this out longhand because I don't get to do that many problems with you in only 17 days of math. So I'm going to go like that. I'm going to say negative 1 times negative 1. And what's a negative times a negative? Hopefully you said a positive, and 1 times 1 is 1. So it turns out that if I plug in negative 1 for x in the function f, I get 3 times 1, or I get 3. So your correct answer is 3. All right, so the next one we're going to look at is g of x. So we're going to take a look at this one here. And this has absolute value. And for some of you guys, I have not been able to talk about absolute value very much with you. So this gives me a great opportunity to do that. And we're trying to be a little bit quicker with it to value your time today. So I'm going to put a negative 1 minus 4 in there. It's a little bit icky looking just because you have minus 1s and you have absolute value marks on the outside. So maybe I'll even make those black so they stand out separate. Okay, so when you're doing absolute value, first of all, you're going to focus on what's inside. So you've got negative 1 minus 4. So if it's 1 degree below 0 and it gets 4 degrees colder, what is negative 1 minus 4? Hopefully you said negative 5. All right, so the last step really has to do with understanding what these symbols mean. And I know that multiple math teachers have talked to you about it, but it doesn't mean that you remember, because let's be honest, you're doing like 3 to 6 classes a day all through middle school, high school. Absolute value is just about the solid distance a number is from 0. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. It always comes out as just a positive value. So we're asking ourselves, how far is negative 5 from 0? That's what we call the absolute value. So if you do your math right, when I plug negative 1 in to the function g, the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. So the answer to that one is 5. All right, we got one more of these. And again, what we're doing is we're looking at how different the answers are when we plug negative 1 into each one of these. So this last one is a square root. So we're doing h of negative 1, and we're putting a negative 1 in for x. So what is negative 1 plus 5? Hopefully you said it's 4. And then this little fun, we call it a radical sign. We're asking you, what's the square root of 4? So what number times itself equals 4? The correct answer is 2. But remember, it says right here, hint, there's 2 answers. So it's not just 2, it's also what I like to refer to as 2's evil twin, or negative 2. So those are your two answers. Because a negative 2 times a negative 2 equals what? That's right, 4. So we are happy with those two answers. All right, so that's just a reminder of like what it might mean if you plug a number into each of these types of equations. So now it's time to do some compositions. So compositions are going to be this kind of a symbol right here. And again, when we say this, we don't say f times g times negative 4. If you actually say it like a pro, it's f of g of negative 4. So we spent a lot of years trying to convince you that parentheses mean multiply, but as I've gone through my mathematics, we sometimes call this the FOG formula because it's f of g. All right, so that's how you say it. If that's how you say fg negative 4, how would you say this one on the right side? Now hopefully you said g of h of 20. All right, so what does f of g of negative 4 mean? It means that you're going to start by focusing on the inside. So you're going to work on this part right here, g of negative 4. And you're going to plug that in to this equation. So we're going to find out what g of negative 4 equals. So we're going to plug that in, and we get another chance at absolute value. So negative 4 minus 4 equals what? Hopefully you said it equals negative 8. Now that gets you to the absolute value of negative 8. And just a reminder, in case you're more of a visual learner, we're asking you, how far is negative 8 from 0? And distance is always measured as a positive number. We never say that I'm going negative 100 miles or I'm driving to Minneapolis and it's going to be negative 14 miles to get there. When we're measuring distance, we just measure it as a positive measurement. We might say north, south, east, or west, but we don't say negative 200 miles. So we're asking how far is negative 8 from 0? The answer is 8. So now we found out that this inner part equals 8. So now we got to take phase 2, and we got to see what f of 8 equals. I should write the 8 right there. So now you're going to look at the f of x equation, and that's going to be like your next phase. So I'm going to do that in black instead. All right, so I'm going to hunt down this function f. I got a little red spidey, black spidey going on there. And I'm going to see what f of 8 is. And again, I'm using a lot of notation, but I don't get a lot of opportunities to show you guys this before you move on to your next set of classes. So I really feel strongly that I owe it to you to do a good job with my notation. So what I did is I plugged 8 in right here. Moment of truth. Do you do 3 times 8 first, or do you do 8 times 8 first? The correct answer is you do 8 times 8 first. So what is 8 times 8? And that's 64. And then now you can take out a calculator. That's not illegal. I'm going to type that in. What is 3 times 64? $192. So your answer for this first one is 192. And that's the answer to what if I plug negative 4 into G and then I plug that answer into F. All right, I got one more for you. This one says G of H of 20. So what are we going to do first, G or H? The correct answer is we're going to do H first. So we're going to find out what H of 20 is. Let's go purple. So we're going to do H of 20. And that means we're going to plug 20 in. Are we going to plug 20 into 3x squared? absolute value of x minus 4, or are we going to plug it into the square root of x plus 5? The correct answer is we're going to plug it into the square root of x plus 5. So we're going to write 20 plus 5. And what is 20 plus 5? Hopefully, you said it was 25. Now, we want to know what's the square root of 25. Sometimes people accidentally square it, but we're looking for what number times itself equals 25. Hopefully you said that it equals 5, because 5 times 5 is 25. But there is a second answer. So you just have to be careful of that, because you guys are in the big leagues now. You're in Algebra 2. So we're going to go, what's the other square root of 25? The correct answer is negative 5. So you're going to plug that in. You have two answers. And if this was just h of 20, we'd be done. But we're not done, because it also asks us what's g of h of 20. And unfortunately, or fortunately, if you enjoy math as much as I do, oh, who does? Let's be serious. Okay, we're going to see what's g of 5, and we're also going to find out what's g of negative 5. Since two answers came out of that, we just got ourselves a bonus, which means more questions, more points to be had. All right, so g of 5. So I'm going to look up here at g, and g of x is x minus 4, or absolute value of x minus 4. So I'm going to go x minus 4 and x minus 4. But instead of 4 on this one on the left, what am I going to put in that x spot? The correct answer is we're going to put a 5 in there. And what are we going to put in this x spot? The correct answer is we're going to put a negative 5. So we have negative 5 minus 4. And the rest is calculation. So what is 5 minus 4? Hopefully you said 1. And this one's a little bit more of a thinker. What's negative 5 minus 4? Hopefully you said negative 9. All right, so that leaves us with two solutions, and now we have to say how far are each of these numbers from 0. So in the end, we find out that the answer is, what's the absolute value of 1? 1. And what's the absolute value of negative 9? And the correct answer is 9. So the answers are 1 and 9. Or we could even say 1 or 9. All right, so that's how you complete compositions using equations.